on the chat box, and these questions will be taken to the speaker Q&A session. And before we proceed with the discussion, let me have a little more time of yours to introduce the organizers for this webinar. This webinar is being organized by Power to SME jointly with Wadhwani Foundation. Power to SME, it was established in year 2012. We are 9 years old company. Founder and CEO is Mr. R. Narayan. Power to SME emerged as the first of its nature company in digital ecosystem, which provides innovative business model which eliminated the intermediary in the supply chain of raw materials from big manufacturer to SMEs. And this is the entire Power to SME ecosystem. We have four major verticals. Power to SME.com. It is the domain which gives you raw material solutions. It connects, it procures the raw material from big manufacturers, supply to small manufacturer SMEs. Our portal Finance Me, it connects SMEs with the empaneled financial partners, and thus it facilitates the loan processing and to meet for SMEs to meet their working capital requirements. Our portal SMEshops.com is
Zumair, can you please present it again?
Yes, please carry on, Zumair.
Okay, our portal SMEshops.com, it's the India's largest B2B e-marketplace which deals exclusively in industrial goods and MRO products. Our NBFC BIS Funds, it is a very young contemporary NBFC which provides very flexible and innovative solutions for raw material procurement financing. These are the key product categories that Power to SME deals in: steel, polymer, paints, yarn, chemicals, and many more there are. The major industrial segments that we cater to include the auto component, electronics, engineering, and so on and so forth. There are quite many. In response to the market requirement during the COVID crisis, our portal SME Shops came up with the entire range of COVID-19 essential products, ranging from thermometers, masks, PPE kits. So both the SMEs and the corporates can buy, sell these COVID-19 products in bulk quantities through SME Shops. We are the funded company. Some of the most reputed venture funds in the country, including Inventors, Kalari, Excel, they have invested in us. Nandan Nilekani is one of our strategic investors. We are also World Bank funded company through its financial arm, International Finance Corporation. These are the few awards and accolades that we have won since our inception. Worth mentioning is Forbes India Leadership Award that we won in November 2018 under Outstanding Startup category. This is our social media presence. We are available all over the social media, so you can get in touch with us through any of these platforms. This program is co-hosted by Wadhwani Foundation, and Wadhwani Foundation has come up with the very new innovative initiative by the name Sahayata Growth and Stability Program, whereby they connect SMEs to various business coaches, consultants, investor, corporate clientele. They understand your pain areas on individual case study basis. They put you through the journey. They provide you with various do-it-yourself tools. They connect you with business consultant, professional consultants, best in the business, and they set you on the recovery path. The major areas there where this Sahayata program can help you with is your customer segmentation, your product diversification, your geographies that you serve to, value chain, and so many. So this is it. And now I request Dr. H.P. Kumar to kindly take the session forward. Over to you, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Zumair. Good afternoon, all the distinguished participants. And let me acknowledge and welcome the presence of the distinguished panelists also. Mr. K.V. Om Prakash, who is a corporate lawyer and also an associate member of the Institute of Company Secretaries of India. and the chartered accountant, Mr. Arun Agarwal. Both of them are very experienced in dealing with the issues that we are going to discuss today. We will have their views little later. Let me introduce the subject. In fact, the issue is very important for the MSME sector. We all know that MSME is a very big sector in the country. It contributes substantially to the Indian economy, provides employment to millions and millions of people. Close to 45% of the total employment in the country is provided by the MSMEs. It contributes almost 45% of country's exports, and a large number of families in the unorganized sector and as well as organized sector are dependent on the MSMEs. The government keeps doing a lot of work and provide incentives and policy initiatives for promotion and growth of the MSMEs. But one of the issues which has been bothering this sector, MSME sector particularly, is the non-realization of their bills or delayed realization of their bills and receivables. So this has been, a big problem for the almost entire MSME sector. Leave aside those who only do the cash business; they sell in small quantities and on cash basis. But majority of the B2B trade, majority of the MSMEs operations go by credit sales. So when there is a delay in realization of their bills or invoices or defaults in realization, it causes tremendous hardship to the MSMEs. Their working capital gets eroded. They have to pay higher interest to the bank because on the one hand, they are paying interest on the availment of credit from the banks, and on the other, they are not able to realize their bills, which is due to them. Now, the government came out in 2012 certain regulations as part of the MSME Development Act of 2006, when the government introduced preferential procurement policy, and as part of the MSME Development Act 2006, they joined these regulations. Now, in the Act, it was stated that irrespective of what is agreed between the buyer and the seller, if the seller is MSME, the payment has to be made, payment of bill or invoice or credit invoice has to be made in 45 days. In case there is a delay beyond 45 days, the buyer will make payment of 3 times of the bank rate. Now, earlier the bank rate used to be quite high. We are talking of RBI bank rate. RBI fixes the bank rate. RBI bank rate used to be 6%, even more at some point of time. And paying 18% interest for period beyond 45 days was considered to be quite prohibitive and would disincentivize the buyers to delay the payments. However, the interest rates, bank rate also has come down substantially over the period. Today, the bank rate is 4.25%. RBI bank rate. So 3 times of the bank rate comes to 12.75%. While it still is higher, quite high, but buyers are not very disincentivized by this rate, and they can pay that 12.75% for the delayed period and continue to default and delay. The question is, how do we get over this problem? Because recently the Government of India also, as one of the points of 6 points of the stimulus package, the finance minister also mentioned in one of the 6 points, that the efforts will be made to get the payments released from the government and government organizations, PSUs, beyond 45 days, whatever is the outstanding. In another discussion, the minister also mentioned, the Minister of MSME, that there is total amount of 5 lakh crore which is pending for payment to the MSMEs. Now it's a huge amount, because if it causes a dent on the working capital of the MSMEs and they have to continue to pay higher interest, they can't become competitive. When we are talking of MSMEs becoming competitive globally, now this kind of non-realization and delay and dent on their working capital would surely make them uncompetitive, and many of them may default in meeting their liabilities, particularly to the banks, and in turn become NPAs. A lot of them turning NPAs, and then banks may take them to NCLT for under the IBC and all these provisions. Their track record will become bad. So this is a big problem. Then there were certain other regulations which were introduced, which were of course as part of the Act of 2006, that each state would set up MSME facilitation councils, and delayed bills would be reported to the facilitation council, delayed or non-realization by the MSMEs, for resolution and realization. Now these MSME councils have been established all over the country by all states, and they are being represented by industry associations representatives also, besides of course the government officials and the direct industries. But not much change has come about. While a lot of cases have been resolved, they have referred it to arbitration and got the resolutions done, passed the orders also. But then over a period of time, we have found that even their orders are also not being implemented. The facilitation council's judgments and orders are also not being implemented. And then, buyers are resorting to other means, like they are going to courts and they are taking stays and all this. The payments are still pending. Now there is another, element to this. There is another viewpoint on this. That some of the MSMEs feel that they do not report these delays to the facilitation councils, or do not intend to take legal action or recover and notice the buyers for recovery of delayed payment interest, because that spoils their relationship. Because their buyers would stop placing orders on them, because they are the buyers for whom they are manufacturing or supplying material. And once they take them to litigation or facilitation councils or demand interest, this will spoil the relationship and their orders might get stopped. So that is another element which has come into practice, and that is how a lot of them are not even reporting the delays. They are somehow managing by negotiating, by pursuing, and by reminding, and by friendly talk with and continue to suffer. So that of course makes them continue to suffer, because they continue to pay interest to the bank and they continue to suffer the delays and loss of interest. The government tried several other things also. Government also tried that in the Companies Act, they made some amendments whereby it was desirable, it was mandated that the buyers who are in default and have delayed the payment of their bills of MSMEs would also report in their balance sheet. This is also part of MSME Act also, and subsequently the rules were notified. Now, while this is being done, but I do not know, I am not sure, and I have over the past decade, I have not seen much impact of this reporting in the balance sheets. While this is for information, it's not a punishable kind of thing. It's only for information of the general public that this buyer or this company in their balance sheet is reporting delays in payment of MSME bills, and that is how some kind of conduct or the financial conduct of the company comes to light. That is the only thing that people in general can understand from the such kind of reporting. So what are the solutions, and what should be done? Because cajoling, following up, writing, friendly talks have not been working. The government's initiative of setting up facilitation council, interest on delayed payment, have also to a limited extent worked, but not fully. Then the government set up another portal which is called MSME Samadhan. The Ministry of MSME set up that portal so that the MSMEs could report all their delays in realization of their payments and bills on the Samadhan portal. That is basically for naming and shaming. Once you report that these are the buyers who have delayed your bills, these are the government organizations or PSUs who have delayed your bills, who have not been paying your bills in time, and these are the bills outstanding. It will be taken note of once it comes to the public portal like Samadhan. It will be noted and it will be taken note of by the ministry. It will also be noted by the concerned organizations because they also will come to know that their defaults and delays have been reported on the portal. So probably because of the shame, they might expedite the payment of such bills. So that is another initiative which the government has taken, and to some extent it has worked. A lot of delays which were reported, lot of bills which were reported pending and delayed have been resolved and paid. So to some extent it has been working, but not fully. So what are the options available now? What are the future course available, and how it is working? We will discuss in our session, and we'll take suggestions from the people also. And let me bring in now the expert panelist for talking on this issue and advising us as to what is the existing legal recourse and remedies of realization of delayed payments. Let me first of all bring Dr. K.V. Om Prakash. He is a corporate lawyer and focuses mainly into business advisory and legal advisory services. He is the founder of Conscientia Law Services, Law Associates, and also Conscientia Consultancy Private Limited. He is in legal practice for the last since 1989, and is also an associate member of the Institute of Company Secretary of India. So over to you, Mr. Om Prakash. We would be happy, in fact, to have your views with regard to what is the legal recourse as of now and what are the remedies for delayed payment under the MSME Act.
I would like to request anybody other than the speakers to kindly.
Sadamini, can you repeat?
Sir, anybody other than the speakers is requested to kindly not present their screens.
Yeah, thanks, Sadamini. So over to you, Mr. Om Prakash. Please come.
Thank you, Ravi, HP Kumarji, and it was a wonderful introduction by you. And thanks for setting the plot and objective of this discussion. As you had rightly pointed out, MSME is the sector which really caters the employment opportunities to most of the Indian public. But they are also the most affected community in terms of payments being delayed. So this is what do you say? It's a very bad aspect which is happening around, and MSME seems to be bleeding because of untimely payment and dues. So when there is a disruption in the supply chain, the most affected people are the MSME sector, and those who are already borrowed, so they have to bleed, without the working capital availability, and they have to downsize their employees and also restructure their business plan and growth. So this is what is happening in the whole market today. And adding to that, we have this COVID which has come, and a lot of MSMEs are shutting down, or most of them are restructuring. So a lot of things are happening. Of course, there is a blessing in disguise that there is a small amount being released by the banks in addition to what they have availed. If they have if they are not an NPA, and there are certain parameters, they should have this much of working capital exposure and borrowings. so they are automatically given a loan. Now, having said that, the point here discussion is what is the recourse available for SMEs if there is a delay in payments. See, as an advocate, we have traditional way of dealing these recoveries. Normally, the first way is the best way is to negotiate and come forward with an arbitration, reconciliation, and solve. Even 50 to 60% of money you get is more than enough, at least to avoid the litigation and time. Time is very essential here. But then many of them fail to understand that, and it goes on and on and on. There are a lot of companies which have very tactically extended their credit periods. So when the credit periods are extended, you make it 90 days, my payment is going to be 90 days, you have agreed, there's a contract. So there is an overriding effect in the act itself. It says 45 days. So the act is very simple. If you owe an MSME over than 45 days, the MSME has all the right to take action against you for recovery, and there are channels for that. The act itself has set up a micro and small enterprise facilitation council. It is called MSEFC. So I can run the presentation. Am I a co-host? Can I have my presentation, please?
Sure, sir.
As Kumarji was mentioning, there is a onus on the buyers to disclose in their balance sheet. They have to necessarily mention what are all the amounts due to the MSMEs, and also the interest portion paid, not paid, what is the accrued, what is the number of days. So this disclosure has to be made, and of course Mr. Arun Agarwal will also accept that we as a professionals definitely have to point out this to the buyers if they are our clients. And wherever I have been providing services for our clients, we have been these disclosures have to be made, and if it is not being made, there is a punitive section also, and fined. What the section says. Section 22 says that it is punishable with fine which shall not be less than 10,000 rupees, is what the section says. So the disclosure is very important. Can I run the? Yeah, next slide, please. Hello. Can you move on the slide?
Mr. Om Prakash, let me present your the thing that you emailed to me. Just give me a minute.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Yes, basically, the traditional method of suing the buyers was either going to winding up petition or having a recovery suit. There is a summary suit available in the City Civil Court. You can file a recovery suit. Now we have MSME FC, where there is an arbitration and proceedings which will help you. So these are the available forms. And now that NCLT has come up with IBC code, but unfortunately the threshold has been increased to 1 crore. Earlier, a lot of MSMEs used to file cases. Now that has come to an end. There is a roadblock there. Now MSMEs are really struggling where the dues are between 25 to 1 crore. 25 lakh to 1 crore. So they do not know what to do. So the avenues are very less. So one has to really depend on the MSME Samadhan or the Facilitation Council, or to adopt the route of basically the recovery channel, that is the recovery suit or a commercial suit, and get their money back. So if you see the first slide, this is the micro type of organization. Is investment where there is 1 crore and turnover is 5 crore. Then small enterprise is rupees 10 crore and 50 crores. Medium is 50 to 250 crores. Next slide, please. So if you see the chapter 5 of the Act, MSME Act 15, section 15 to 24 deals with the delay and defaulted payments to MSMEs. So basically, these sections have provided for a micro and small enterprise facilitation council, that is called MSEFC, and these councils will help to recover at least 75% of the dues, the amount which the buyer owes to the supplier. And as Kumarji was mentioning, it is within 45 days the payment has to be made, otherwise the penal interest can be statutory laid, and the interest can be 3 times is what they are saying on the RBI guidelines. Next slide. Next slide, please. The objective is to provide a speedy and efficient statutory mechanism, and the MSEFC Council is obliged to decide a case within 90 days. So anything beyond 45 days, the payment is due, and if you apply to this mechanism, which has been under the Act, MSEFC, 90 days is the time they have to take and dispose of. If you see the website of MSME Samadhan, I think 50,000 cases have been filed so far, and 3,500 cases have been disposed of. So the rate, if you see the disposal rate, it's very less, and a lot of cases have been refused also, rejected also. So the mechanism seems to be very slow, or not very fruitful, is what, if you see the numbers are saying. So many MSMEs are not going through that route, and they are trying to solve the problem amicably outside, and they are trying to, once the IBC was there, since the threshold has been increased now, there is a problem now. What will be happen to the people who have climbed below 1 crore rupees? So this situation is now getting addressed. Now, if you see, at least 75% is what the council expecting to solve. Even if the recovery is 75%, good recovery is what they say. And in case, the next slide, please. Under section 21, the MSME, the council consists of various members, and if you see, 1 or more office bearers or representative of MSME associations in the state, 1 or more banks and financial institutions lending to MSMEs, 1 or more persons having special knowledge in field of industry, finance, law, and trade. So the council is very strong. It has at least 2 to 5 members. Next slide. So who can apply to this grievance? So any MSME, in order to apply, has to apply for this Udyog Aadhar memorandum, that is called the UAM. This is a number being given. So this will be the reference. So you have to really apply for this UAM. And then if you see the real recourses, you can issue a civil legal notice or a demand notice as per the IBC, insolvency petition. If it is beyond the threshold, that is 1 crore. If it is below that, then we need to really go with the council or the portal Samadhan. So that is the way available. Or suitably, you can have a recovery suit also. But recovery suit, what happens? You need to pay a court fee of 7.5% is what the running rate is on the claim amount. So if that is there, it is a summary trial, and it could take maybe 1 year, but you get a good result if you have all the documents, and if there is a obligation by the buyer to really pay them. So otherwise it will be a summary suit, and the trial goes for maybe year and a half. The court gives a very good order. So we have done many recovery suits there, and you have to file in Form 1. MSME Samadhan is there. You need to make an online complaint, and you are allowed to make up to 3 claims, 3 bills you are allowed, and you need to stick to the restrictions there. Next slide, please. If you see, it should be 1 MB, and the work orders, PDF documents has to be filed. 3 work orders and 3 invoices can be uploaded, and definitely you need an Udyog Aadhaar memorandum number. So these are the prerequisite, and the process of filing is very simple. Only thing is you need to adhere to the specification mentioned therein. The suppliers need to mention the Aadhaar number also. Basically, the mobile number is given, everything is to be mentioned there, and a validate Udyog Aadhaar. Now, basically, the verification code has been displayed, and it gets validated, and you have to register an email also there. So there is an online process which people have to follow. This is only a procedural aspect which anyone can easily do this. Next slide, please. If you see the process, after 15 days of submission of the application, the council issues notice to the buyer, then publishes a notice in the local papers, and buyer resides after issuing 3 days, 3 consecutive personal notices. And if the buyer does not respond to the notices issued by the council automatically admits that the claim made be the supplier true and accepted by the buyer. Council reserves the right to pass an ex parte order also is available. It is similar to the court process. So the buyer responds, the council then refers the matters, and the party reconciliation happens, conciliation happens, and we try to solve the problems amicably within 90 days. So if an amicable settlement is reached by the parties through conciliation, the council then passes a final order disposing of the matter. If an amicable settlement is not reached at the parties through conciliation, arbitration as another means of alternative dispute resolution is resorted to for the conducting its proceedings by the council. So if the conciliation doesn't happen, then they initiate the arbitration process, which is a different one. The council looks into the merits of the case and evidences as produced by the parties and passes a final order which is binding. And even the foreign buyers also, it binds on them. It is being sent to their consulates also. The conciliation expects 75% to be recovered. Next slide, please. So this is again, this gives a total summary. The entrepreneur filed the application online to respective council. After 15 days, council will take action on the application. Online information will be sent to the entrepreneur and respondent by email. Mutual settlement option for entrepreneur is expected. The council can approve the entrepreneur application and convert into a case. Council can reject the entrepreneur application. SME and email sent to SMS and emails are sent to entrepreneur and respondent if application is converted into the case. Council can enter into the case detail and in online portal. and received online applications, council will update case hearings status or hearing dates. So entrepreneur can view so everything is available on the portal. So anybody can process it. So next slide, next slide. So after filing the soft copies in the Samadhan, definitely an hard copy has to be submitted. And the most important thing is, even if the agreement between the buyer and the supplier has an arbitration clause, it doesn't prevent the council to take up the case. So it will admit the case irrespective of arbitration clause in being existing in the agreement. So this is one of the good sign where the supplier has a method to obtain his money. So I was mentioning about the foreign buyer. Even if there is a foreign buyer, the order binds and it can be sent to their respective consulates. So the order is binding on the foreign buyers also, and the council can send it to the consulates, respective consulates. Next. And alternatively, the offence of the buyer can also be tried by the Metropolitan Magistrate or Magistrate of First Class or Court of Higher Hierarchy. The jurisdiction of State Council can be extended to a district not having a council. So these are the alternative methods available, but it is absolutely necessary to produce a purchase order. Even if there is no details available, the acknowledgement on invoice, delivery challenge or part payment, emails, etc. are acceptable to make the case admitted. So the council or the court will not reject if there is an acknowledgement that there is a payment due. That is more than enough. That is why the Companies Act is insisting on making a acknowledgement and disclose in the balance sheet. Our learned friend will be explaining more on that. Next slide, please. So this is where it stands now. If you see the complications here are the IBC code was very handy, and the buyers were kind of getting to an settlement mode because their company would be wound up. Now that the threshold has increased, there is a small vacuum and people have to really go through the various other alternates available. So this is where it stands now. Over to you, Mr. Kumar.
Thank you, Dr. Om Prakash. I think very exhaustive and very clear presentation about the legal aspects and the course that the MSMEs can take. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
So it has been very knowledgeable. I think all MSMEs participating in this program would have benefited immensely. Even I also got some new information that even the foreign buyers also are covered under this provision, and the decision of the Facilitation Council can be sent to the consulate in foreign country of the buyer, and we can enforce the order of the MSME Facilitation Council, MSC Facilitation Council. Now, one aspect which is worth noting is that the medium is not covered under this MSC Facilitation Council. And now, since the medium has been made a very significant part of the MSME definition, so I feel that the medium also should be covered under this provision, so that the medium also should be able to get the recourse done through the MSME Facilitation Council. That is one thing. And second thing is the 45 days criteria. I think that also needs to be extended to the medium. And as of now, probably it is not there. And the other aspect that you mentioned about 1 lakh threshold to
1 crore.
1 lakh to 1 crore. Now the amendment has been done by the government under the IBC. I feel that the 1 lakh provision should be restored, because a lot of micro and small enterprises otherwise would get debarred, from lodging their cases to the IBC. So that provision also, I think, needs to be restored to the original level, because 1 crore is too big for a micro and small enterprises for one invoice or one So otherwise, as operational creditor, MSME sector would be completely out of IBC, and they will not have any recourse except the financial creditors, that is banks and financial institutions. So IBC will actually be meant only for them, not for other creditors. So in effect of this change which has been brought about. So very nice. We will keep talking, Mr. Dr. Om Prakash. Let me bring in now the other esteemed panelist. The chartered accountant, Mr. Arun Agarwal. He is a chartered accountant running his own consultancy firm, PinQ Professionals. He is an expert in virtual CFO, running a virtual CFO. I would like to understand what is this virtual CFO. It's a very innovative, name. And compliance, virtual CFO and compliance services to MSMEs. Very interesting. I think a very new model probably he has devised. And the new businesses which are setting up the businesses. He was also the chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Gurgaon, and prior to that he was secretary and other office bearers, other holding office, other offices also of the institute. So over to you, Mr. Arun Agarwal.
Thanks a lot, HP Kumarji, and Om Prakash KVG are my fellow speaker. Please do let me know if my screen is visible to you.
Not yet.
Mr. Agarwal, would you like me to put on your presentation?
It will be easier if I do that.
Okay, yes, please do.
Because at my screen it shows it is presenting.
No, it is not available to us so far.
Okay, in that case, you may please, project my screen and I can, run it there.
Sure, just.
Yeah. So in the meantime, thanks a lot, Power to SME and Wadhwani Foundation for giving me this opportunity. And I must congratulate you. You guys are doing a fantabulous job in the form of, empowering the SMEs and MSMEs of the country, which obviously is the core, one of the core foundation stone of our economy. So let's just start by the time the presentation gets, started. Basically, there are two questions that have been asked, to be shared by me. Two questions that we need to ponder upon. One is there any special benefit which is available under Income Tax Act, GST, and Corporate Acts for the SMEs? And the second one, which is the most effective tax entity structure that one can think about as far as MSME is concerned. Let's start with the first question. If you could please change the slide. So the first and the foremost thing, I'll take a backseat and just think about it. And what should be the key benefits that an SME would look at from the government as far as the tax or the corporate acts are concerned? The first and the foremost being that I have, given that we are smaller in size, we do not have huge, teams which are favoring us, are working with us. We cannot really go out and hire a specialized consultant for all the things that are required. And hence, can you please help me reduce my compliance? The second thing is that obviously, vis-a-vis a larger business in the same industry, can I have some tax benefits or an edge which can help me sustain the competition? And the third one, and I guess that's something which is the most important, is about making sure that any of the taxes or any of these acts do not lead to to a level wherein if at all I'm not compliant, it doesn't push me to the corner in the form of criminalizing the non-compliance. And that's where the lower penalty or decriminalization of non-compliance is concerned. In general, when you look at any of the tax act or any of the acts in India, they would not specifically be talking about MSMEs. They would generally be giving these benefits out in the form of a tax, a revenue threshold, or a structural threshold which is available to them. Let's start and discuss about income tax. I have very limited time, about 10-15 minutes, so I'll be running it a bit faster. You can let me know any question that one might have about it. So as far as the Income Tax Act is concerned, it again, the thesis is again based upon the revenue. A lot of benefits are being given basis the revenue. You are registered with MSME or you are not, doesn't make a difference. The first and the foremost, the lower tax rate. The tax rates are, the corporate tax rates are lower for entities having less than 400 crore turnover now. It was lower earlier, but the base was the same. That the mid-sized businesses available in India, they are getting some benefits in the form of a 25% tax rate as against a 30% tax rate. The second thing is about the compliance. When we talk about lower compliance, we talk about the tax audits, we talk about the other audits. So there are presumptive taxation schemes which are available for businesses which are generating revenue below a threshold. If you are earning less than a threshold, you can just go ahead, pay the taxes at say 50% of your professional receipts if you are coming under 44ADA. What does it mean? It means that you do not have to bother about creating works. You do not have to bother about a lot of compliances. All that you need to make sure is that by the end of the year, you calculate your revenue, pay tax on 50% of your receipts, or pay tax on 8% of your receipts, and we do not ask you any question. If you look at it, one might look at it as a measure which is not directly linked to MSMEs, but if you look at it, the MSME is going to be the only one which gets benefit. Rather, the SMEs and the smaller businesses are the ones which are going to be getting benefit. Another thing which is again, a lot of startups which are working here in India, the ESOP comes out to be one of the very lucrative way of incentivizing my employees, as well as making sure that the upfront cash outflow is lower. And in that, there was a big concern that as and when the ESOP gets vested and exercised upon, the employer employer will have to pay taxes. And what does it mean? It means that any startup which is not generating huge cash flows can start having an impact. Why? Because I am not paying anything. I have shared my shares with an employee who's doing a great job, but I have to end up paying 30% tax on the value of my shares. And that's where the government has come up with a plan wherein the tax can be deferred for 5 years, or when the employee leaves. That way, the cash outflow gets reduced, it gets deferred. So there are a few more benefits which are available in income tax, but the core that you have to look at is it doesn't talk about MSME, it mostly talks about the revenue system. Let's look at the GST related some of the benefits that are available to us now. Again, here as well, I would again like to highlight to you that the compliance benefits here as well are linked to revenue. Here as well, the focus is more about reduced compliance burden. It's not saying that you would not have any compliance burden, you would have it, but it will be slightly lesser. If you look at it, the very base of the GST, it talks about a minimum threshold which is required for somebody to be registered under GST. You are not required to be registered under GST if you are below a particular threshold. That way, all the small businesses can remain out of the tax band. The second one, if your revenue is less than 1.5 crore, you are into a B2C business, you are supplying goods to the end consumer who doesn't really need to avail GST credit, one can opt for a composition scheme. And all that it gets you is that the compliance burden is extremely lower. You do not have to keep strong books, you do not have to keep focusing on the GST credit, whether it's available or not. You do not have to bother about issuing a GST invoice, making sure that the GST one is filed on time or not. All of that goes away. The next one is, again, if you would have looked at it, the government generally has, a lot of benefits has been given by government for the businesses which are generating less than 5 crores of revenue. For example, the return filing, the return filing, the GSTR1 can be filed on a quarterly basis for the smaller businesses as against the bigger businesses. The same way, time and again, we have seen multiple times, as and when the last dates are increased for filing the returns, or the benefits for late fee or interest on delayed filings or payment of taxes, they have been given to companies or the businesses which are generating less than 5 crores of revenue. Apart from that, as in the case of the Income Tax Act, the GST Act also gives a benefit of no GST audit for businesses generating less than 2 crores of revenue. Again, everything else remains the same. Just because I'm not required to do GST audit, the compliance burden on me will be slightly lower. Let's move on to the next slide and talk about the Companies Act. Structural benefits are being given and reduced compliance burden is being given. So if you look at it, the theme remains same across. As an MSME, as a smaller business, I cannot be expecting a lot of tax benefits per se, but yes, I need lower compliances, and that's what government has been providing. So to say, smaller or bigger. The current government has been offering some of these benefits. Of late, we have seen in the last budget as well, a lot of new benefits that came in. Let's talk a bit about that as well. In this particular case as well, in the Companies Act, it gives you an option to have a one-person company, a private limited company, a public limited company. As you move up, the compliance burden keeps on going higher. A one-person company needs to have much lesser compliance burden. A private limited company would be slightly more. As you go to being a public company or a listed company, the compliance keeps on going higher. The base remains the same. The compliances are required to be higher when the businesses are bigger. The MSME filing, our fellow speaker talked in detail about it. So every company has to file a form called MSME 1, informing all those payments of MSME vendors where the payment was not made within the prescribed time limit, even though there is an agreement to it or any other matter that can be the reason for it. But if at all any particular vendor is not being paid within the 45 days time period, and if he is a registered MSME dealer, the company has to inform the ROC about such delays and the reason for the same. To top it up, the auditor, while finalizing the books, has to make sure that they are making sure that any such delays are being highlighted, any such delays and related to to such delays there is any interest liability, that is very clearly highlighted. To be very frank, from the perspective of a business, while there is no clear implication as far as the taxes or the penalties are concerned, but the businesses generally do not want these kind of disclosures to come out in their balance sheet. So there are areas where we see some changes happening. There are areas wherein the businesses are working with their vendors to see how these kind of disclosures can keep they can make sure that the disclosures are lower. Apart from that, if you see as I said, the compliances are again very high as you start growing bigger. For example, the relaxation on the key management personnel or the CS, a bigger company needs to have to make sure that they have a KMP, they need to have a company secretary on board, but the smaller businesses do not need that. Apart from that, the government has been working towards decriminalizing the Companies Act significantly. A lot of non-compliances or misses that had criminal offenses linked to it, government has started working towards it, making sure that a small businessman who doesn't have a well worth to make sure that all the complicated compliances are being completed on time, there is some respite for him as well. So just to sum it up for you again, the focus in general in most of these tax laws as well as the corporate laws is concerned, there is some deliberate benefit which is passed on to the smaller businesses. As they start going bigger, the benefits are being, withdrawn. The second question that we have, which is about what is the most effective tax entity structure for MSME. To be very frank, there is no one shoe that fits all, and to my mind, probably one has to look at least 4-5 key parameters which are really very important for any business before he decides his structure. Let's discuss a bit about some of the key things that one has to look at as far as the structure is concerned. Yes, tax is one, but what about the liability or the risk appetite of this business and the entrepreneur? The higher the risk, you would not want to be into a proprietorship firm. If the liabilities and the chances of higher liability is there because of the kind of job that you are in, you might as well want to be acting and pursuing your business through an LLP or a private limited company, so to make sure that as an owner of the business you have restricted your liabilities and the risk related to that. The nature of business also defines significantly the kind of structure that one should have. A small retail store might not really need to have a private limited company or a OPC in place, but at the same point in time, a startup which is looking for reinvestment from the investors, or which is looking at creating multiple brands, or which is gonna be working with multiple businesses wherein the liabilities and the risk of liabilities are higher on him, he might as well want to go and create a private limited company and not work in a proprietorship. Then there is an external perception that comes into play. In general, any business, any sector which is regulated, which is having somebody overlooking it, is seen as a comparatively better better managed structure. For example, if I look at a bank, in general, I would assume that the banks would be having a better management versus a normal financing company. If there is a financing company which is not getting regulated by RBI, I compare that with anybody else, I would not have a comfort. So any business which has a regulator will have a perception of being a better managed structure. The same way, the surplus of funds, where do you what kind of funds that you generate, and do you really need to reinvest that, or do you really need to withdraw that money for your personal purposes? That also has an implication on tax rates. Let's go a bit about the options that one might have. I have not included OPC here, but I will just cover it while I talk about it. The plain and the old way of working that all of us have had was the proprietorship. I am a proprietor. I run my own shop. I run my own business. There is no bifurcation between me and my business, and hence there is unlimited liability that is there upon me. If the business goes good, everything is mine. If the business does not do good, unfortunately, and there is a liability which I never thought about, it will still be mine. The tax slabs are very straightforward. I'll have to pay the tax as an individual. In my view, the compliances are very low in a proprietorship form. So any business which is a smaller business, does not require an external investment, and would have a limited liability, should go with a proprietorship. The partnership, on the other hand, is something which comes into picture when there are 2 or more people who are coming together and working. The tax rate here is 30%, different from proprietor. A proprietor earning 5 lakh rupees income might not have to pay any taxes, but a partnership firm will have to pay 30% tax still. However, any income that the partnership firm generates will result into zero tax implication on the partner as far as the distribution of that profit is concerned. What does it mean? It means that the partner will not have to pay any tax on the profit that the partnership firm has earned and upon which the 30% tax rate has been paid.
Mr. Agarwal, can we slightly speed it up because of the time?
I'll take another 5 minutes, I guess. Is that good enough, or do you want me to be a bit faster?
Further shorten it, yeah.
Sure, not a problem. So, so partnership is that wherein again the compliances are limited. LLP is a corporate form of partnership. The same as partnership, liability is limited. You know the difference between partnership and the LLP. Tax rate will be the same. You'll have an additional compliance which comes from ROC. You have to take a call whether I am willing to devote myself toward the compliance or not. The private limited company is now so to say mostly looked after for slightly bigger businesses. A separate legal entity, what does it mean is that I have limited liability as far as the owner is concerned. The tax rates vary from 15 to 20%, but the dividend paid to the owners becomes taxable. There are compliances, however, in my view, wherever there are compliances, the recognition is higher. I guess I can stop here because the second question that
you kindly complete your presentation. The only thing is I was requesting that you should be a little faster. That's it.
Yeah, I was actually on my last slide, because after that are mostly about the key compliances that are there. That can be covered as and when somebody has a question.
Okay, no, we will continue. We will continue to chat, in fact, because there is enough time available.
Sure, because I see that your last time was 4:15. It is already 4:06, so you should have some more time to discuss and deliberate some of the questions that might be there.
We will surely do that, because out of your presentation, which is very exhaustive and very nice, I have myself got few questions, in fact, to ask you, and I'm sure the participants also would be having so many questions.
Because we have only 8 minutes. Let's move on to the question and answer.
Yeah, surely we'll move it gradually.
Yeah.
So the issues that you mentioned are very good. The only thing is, coming back to Mr. Om Prakash now. In fact, I have some questions to ask Mr. Om Prakash or Dr. Om Prakash also, as to what do you think, Dr. Om Prakash, as to what is the way forward with the limitations and the conditions that we have seen now with regard to recovery of dues and delays in defaults in realization of bills of MSMEs. What do you think would be your recommendations for fast tracking these recoveries? What, if you want to really request the government, what recommendations would you give, that what changes should be brought into the existing legislation or existing procedures, MSME Facilitation Council, or any other provision that you may like to bring?
If there is any representation to be made in the judicial system, I would suggest there should be a special court for MSME, a special fast track court for MSME, and the disposal should happen within 3 months. And maybe they can take a court fee, like how we have a recovery suit, like how we have an economic offense court, like how you have the contract commercial courts. One special will be good, because the threshold was increased in NCLT under the IBC, because the judges and the presiding officers felt that NCLT is not a recovery agent. Even for a meager amount of, say, 15 lakhs, 10 lakhs, people used to go there and file, because in an NCLT process, the fees for the professional, IP professional itself is going to be few lakhs. So if you see this among the available situation, supposing a person is having 50 lakhs as a recovery, so he has to go through the Samadhan, or he has to depend on the council. Now that is the only way left. Or he has to take a recovery suit by paying the 78% court fee and go in a summary trial. So if there is going to be a special court for MSME, it could be really handy, because as you said, the claims are not going to be huge. Most of the claims are going to be somewhere around 15 lakhs to 50 lakhs. So these are the entire process which was the courts in NCLT, lot of cases were pending. The NCLT was not able to handle. So the requirement now is a special court. I would suggest that. And of course, you have the existing Samadhan portal is also there. MSME Samadhan is there. People can approach that also. And they can also insist on arbitration proceedings. That is also an amicable way of handling things. But my sincere advice would be, please revisit all your agreements, see that the agreements are tight. And if there is any clause which is going to be mentioning 90 days period, please revisit and rectify it. Make it 45 days. So these are the only ways to, for the MSMEs to really insist on their payments.
Okay.
This act has been long. This act has been from long, but only thing is the execution and implementation is not happening.
Okay. Okay. So coming back to Mr. Arun Agarwal, are you there, Mr. Agarwal?
Yes, I am there.
So I have some 2-3 questions before we take the questions from the audience.
Yeah.
You mentioned about the presumptive taxation for the certain categories of entities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So can you tell me what is the presumptive taxation threshold for manufacturing as well as for services? Entities engaged in manufacturing and services, because I understand there is a separate threshold for business enterprises which are engaged in trading or manufacturing, and separate for services. Is that so?
So there are two separate sections that we have to look at. The section 44AD talks about the retail, and 44ADA that talks about the professions, specific professions that are there. The tax rates are different. The 44AD says that somebody who's into retail business and is coming and finalizing that the tax rates, the profits is less than 8%, or is not less than 8% for me. He can just go ahead, pay 8% tax rate, and that's where he gets free. However, as far as the 44ADA is concerned, the 44ADA talks about the professions. That there are specific professions wherein which gets covered under 44ADA. For example, lawyer gets covered, doctors get covered. In that particular case, the profitability criteria is 50%, which means that somebody who's generating say 50 lakh rupees of revenue, that's the threshold for it. If he's generating 50 lakh rupees of revenue, he'll have to just go ahead and pay taxes, assuming that his profits were 25 lakh rupees for that. Right? As far as 44AD is concerned, which is about the retail trade, the revenue threshold was was increased from 2 to 5 in this particular year.
2 to 5 crore.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And for professionals, you said it is 50 lakhs rupees.
Yeah.
But they have to pay tax on 25 lakhs.
Yes. So presumptive tax means that if you come up and agree to our profitability ratio, we have given you a profitability ratio of 50% in case of 44ADA, and we have given you a profitability ratio of 8% in AD, means that if you are saying that, okay, out of my revenue of say 1 crore, I made 8 lakh rupees of profit, we are not going to be asking you any question. We are not asking you to prepare your books of accounts.
Right. I think that is much easier for micro and smaller.
Yes, exactly.
And they will get the benefit of that. Now,
They
one
would,
last
and it should actually.
Yeah, and one minor question which I would pose and then of course ask our audience, that is whether there is any special advantage for LLPs. Is there any advantage with regard to presumptive taxation also in LLPs?
No, presumptive taxation, it doesn't talk about any specific benefit for LLP only, which is not available to partnership form, so to say. But yes, the 44ADA related benefits can be passed on.
So, but it is available for LLPs, the presumptive taxation.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think we have had very good discussion with regard to not only the problems with regard to delayed payment of MSMEs, the visions existing as of now as to how do we tackle the MSMEs delayed payments, what are the regulations, how do they recover the money, what are the penalties, and how do they deal with the facilitation councils. So that is one part of the discussion. And the second part, of course, another very interesting aspect of taxation of the enterprises, various kinds of enterprises, various entities, various kinds of statutory entities like proprietorship, partnership, LLPs, and private limited companies. And it has been, of course, a lot of new information which has come to the notice, because so many changes have been happening over the years. And one of the problems, in fact, that of course a lot of people tell me that the stability in tax rates and tax structures is very important. because we don't know how fast these changes happen, and they do not even come to know as to how do they plan their operations. So that is one aspect which we have been, which we have been representing to the government time and again, that brings stability, whether it is tax rates or the rules and regulations, compliances, filing of returns. All these should become, not everyday changes should happen, because that creates a lot of problems with the MSMEs. So we had good discussions, and I think we will come to the questions now, because I am sure that the participants would have raised some questions. So Davani?
Yes, sir. We have lots of questions today. We're starting off with Mr. Prabhat Kumar Nath, and he has multiple questions. I will ask them all at once.
Yes.
He says, through MSME Samadhan, we applied for our delayed payment case. It was sent to MSE FCWB in online system on 10th of June 2020. Till date, no movement has been made. What to do? He says NBCC citing no funds and they are not paying since years, for many years, even the principal amount, forget the interest for our payment pending since 2014. He says that the central government has declared that up to September 20th, due to Corona, you can pay road tax of vehicles without penalty, but state government, especially West Bengal, is charging penalty in the online system. And he says that the arbitration award in favor of them of March 2017 is for no reason challenged by NPCC in court on ground that their client Eastern Railway have not paid them. So he says he has not been paid. He says if the PSU or any MNC is deliberately not paying for a long time, what can he do in such a case?
Mr. Om Prakash, would you like to answer?
Yes. As regards the no follow-up or no feedback from the Samadhan, I think the hard copy also should be submitted, and it should be within the parameters of the online filing. Otherwise, it might get rejected, or it might get lost. Because as you see the web portal itself, there are 50,000 odd online applications which have been made, and it should fit that. Sometimes it doesn't work. We don't have an interface in the online, so it is always better you go there and have it delivered the hard copy and get an acknowledgement. That is always important. And sometimes the online may not get the expected result. Apart from that, the questions like how to go about, what is the mechanism, how to fix the problems, the best way is to insist the buyers to disclose in their balance sheet. That is the only mechanism where the large MNCs are really fearing. They have an audit query, like Mr. Agarwal was mentioning. The auditors will have to qualify in their audit report that this MSME payment is due from so and so period, and if not paid, they will be penalized, and the directors should be taken action based on that. So that is all not there. These kind of punitive actions are not there available now. It is like anybody's, we can do away with this only disclosure. I will disclose it. What is there? Nobody to take action. And the ROC has to drive this. There is a form by name MSME form under the Companies Act. That forms declare how many MSME payments are pending. So that form has to be investigated by the ROC, and ROC has to send notices to all the companies. So that will become very effective. That process they have not started. I think soon the ROC will start doing that, because the form itself is 1 or 2 years old.
Thank you, Dr. Om Prakash. In fact, one or two things that I would like to add, specifically what the gentleman has asked. One is that in the MSME Samadhan, they probably sent it to MSME Facilitation Council, and there is no response. So I would suggest that you should immediately, there is a champions portal which has been launched by the Ministry of MSME. You should lodge this case there, register that complaint at the champions portal, and mention that you had mentioned this in the Samadhan, which has been forwarded to Facilitation Council. And I'm sure that you will get prompt action as well as prompt response. Second query that you mentioned about the NBCC going against your decision of the Facilitation Council going to the court, that is of course as per their legal rights that they can go. That is that is a provision given in the legal system. But however, they have to deposit a certain amount of money before going to the court. So that of course has to be ensured by them. You can also of course mention about this in the to the government, because government has Ministry of MSME, because Ministry of MSME as well as Finance Ministry recently had announced that they will ensure all payments from the public sector and the government within a certain period fast. They said 1 week. I mean, forget about 1 week, even if it is done in 30 days time, that should be good enough. So you should keep following up through the government. I'm sure you will get the positive results. So Damini.
Sir, the next question we have is from Mr. Rajesh Gupta. He says, some of our buyers ask us to submit confirmation that we are not registered under MSME to engage with us in business. This bypasses the auditor's remarks as well.
You are not registered. That say they are not registered. That is how they are not being taken seriously.
They, buyers will not engage with them at all. They said, if you are registered under MSME, we will not engage with you.
Oh, that is a very difficult situation to handle, because people register MSMEs because they are getting some advantages. They get some facilities from the government and get concessional interest rate, interest subvention, and payment is difficult, no difficulty. Now, on the other hand, if their buyers are raising this issue that if you are MSME, we will not deal with you. I mean, that's a very difficult proposition to handle. They should convince their buyers that being MSME is not a crime. We will not take, very harsh measures or something. I mean, it depends on the mutual relationship. If the buyers do not disturb the sellers who are MSMEs, why should the MSMEs get deprived of their whatever normal rights they have by becoming MSMEs? So I think they can deal with the buyers by convincing them. That is what I can say. Damini?
Mr. Shekhar Iyer says that MSME facilitation in many cases is too complicated.
MSME facilitation is complicated.
Yeah, a defaulter is given 4 chances for making appearance in person. After that, there's an ex-parte decision. This does not help. It's a decree. There is lots of loss of business and loss of money.
Any of you, Dr. Om Prakash or Mr. Agarwal, would like to take this?
What is the question? Can you repeat it, madam? You are talking about ex-parte order.
Can I come in, Dr. Kumar?
Yes, please do that.
Give me a chance. I am the speaker. I mean, I was the one who raised the question.
Yeah, please do that. Please do that.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes. Good evening, panel. I am Shekhar Iyer from Bangalore. I have an establishment Hosur on the outskirts of Bangalore. We manufacture printing inks used in flexible packaging industry. Our average debtors in this industry is around 90 days. Okay. That is a new norm followed by the industry, right from the multinationals to the bottom end of the pyramid. Now, I have at least 7 or 8 cases at Coimbatore MSME Facilitation Center, which Mr. Om Prakash was mentioning. Our people go in person. We had the first webinar post-COVID last month. There was an IAS officer, a lady who was heading the team. Otherwise, we have to mandatorily go to Coimbatore from Hosur, spend our money, stay in a hotel, and after going there, the other party will not turn up 4 times. I meant that. So ex-party you get after 4 months. He's talking of restricting to 90 days. This goes on for 6 months. You please bring the banker who lends the money to the buyer to the panel. Fast track code to involve the lender to the buyer and also the borrower. Have those in place. Then things will fast track. Otherwise, it will never ever fast track.
Okay.
This decree from the facility center is of no use, no consequence.
That is what we are discussing.
It's a fact. I'm telling you, I have gone through all the mill. And today, like Om Prakash, I can also give a lecture, speak, and become a panelist. At 64, Dr. Kumar, I have seen enough of the industry. There are black sheep in our industry. You can't do anything. So we all are going through the pain, and without pain, there is no gain. I'll put it very simple to you.
No, I think you are.
I have expressed my the dissatisfaction with the way the council is functioning. Then they will say, put a newspaper ad in one of the local newspapers that that guy is missing, absconding. We'll give you an expert. What are you talking? I mean, it is ridiculous, bizarre.
Mr. Iyer, we are in fact sitting here.
I mean, these kind of things which the council and he's a bureaucrat there, bureaucrat.
Rest of time, can we talk about these resolutions as to what is the resolution?
No, that is what Dr. Kumar. I have heard you at least 7-8 times in this. In the last 3 months, Mr. Kumar, I have heard you 7-8 times on several SME forums. I've been regularly listening to you. I came only for this. You know why? Because I am an affected party in this. 50 lakhs of my rupees is outstanding with about 7-8 customers. I haven't been able to. I hardly got some pittance from one guy at 60% or 40%.
No, Mr. Shankar, we will take up this issue surely, because this is one of the areas where
Dr. Kumar, we are looking at only solutions. We all know the problems.
Yeah, sure.
So now come out with a webinar or seminar, how to address this. Give us solutions.
Shekhar
We
sir,
want, if it has to go to Nitin Gadkari, it has to go to Nitin Gadkari. Simple as that.
Okay.
Shekhar sir,
Let me stress that further.
Can I talk to you here?
Yeah, please.
We fully understand your pain, sir. We fully understand your pain. I'm also an MSME. I also have a consultancy firm. I also suffer the same thing. But you could have gone to the criminal court, sir. Why didn't you go there? You could have filed a cheating case.
Anyway, we have noted down these observations. In fact, when you are talking about some of the problems, that is what the purpose of this webinar is. We have been in fact discussing these issues so as to compile the problems. We know the problems. As you rightly mentioned, we know the problems. And these problems have been discussed. I never said that all these issues have been resolved, so everything is hunky-dory. No, that is the purpose of this discussion, so that we come to know about what are the issues which can be taken up to the government. And that is how we understand. In fact, Facilitation Council, I myself mentioned that there is a problem with the Facilitation Council decisions. These are not being honored. And the people who are getting these orders are again approaching the courts. That is what I mentioned myself. Same thing you are also repeating. So we are taking taken this note of these observations and the problems, and we will surely take it up with the government. So next, Sudhamini.
So Mr. Vijay says that his client based in Hyderabad is not taking his calls, he's not paying them and not responding on emails. How can they tackle that?
So we have already discussed this today, that it is through the existing mechanism. The existing mechanism is that you should approach the Facilitation Council, and you can also lodge it on the MSME Samadhan portal. Maybe you can right now, the third platform is now Champions, which MSME Ministry has opened. I am sure that some response will be there. Whatever existing mechanism, if it is responsive, they will respond. Otherwise, until the changes happen, the existing problems being faced by a lot of MSMEs will continue to be.
So Mr. Atmish is asking the next question. He says, we have been following our customer for pending payment from the last 3 years, but now company has shut down. So how do we collect the payment?
Yes, Dr. Om Prakash.
Company has shut down means there is no company at all.
Yeah, there's no company.
So they have to go behind the promoters only, because the promoters, we should first of all find out whether it's a private limited company or a LLP or a proprietary firm. We have to go behind the promoters only.
Right, sir.
No, normal, in fact, for recovery of dues from any company which has shut down, there is a normal procedure available. That is the legal procedure. You can file a case, recovery case against the company as well as the promoters. Both actions are available. So, Davini?
Yes.
No.
The final question for today, sir, is from Dr. S.P. Sharma. He says, what are the penalties under the Companies Act if no reasons for non-payment or interest portion are mentioned? If buyers go in under IBC for insolvency, then what is the course available for SME to recover the money under Samadhan?
Would you like to answer, Dr. Om Prakash?
Samadhan is a method of recovery which the the Act provides for. IBC, of course, now the threshold has been increased. Otherwise, it was a wonderful mechanism where there was settlements happening. Those who were having, the cutoff date is just before the March end. After that, this threshold has been increased. Still, those cases have been conducted in the NCLT. But now we need to see how these people can, those who are falling between that bracket, only the Samadhan method or the recovery suits are available. As Mr. Iyer was mentioning, there is no fast track suit court for this for specific purpose. We need to really bank on these methods.
Any others, Sudhamini?
Sir, that's all for today. I would like to thank all our esteemed speakers for taking out the time to be with us today for this highly informative webinar. Those of our participants who have not yet submitted their responses and queries to us, please submit on the link given in the chat box to let us have a better understanding of your pain areas. We look forward to seeing all of you next week at yet another webinar. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thank you, Sudhamini. I think this is a very interesting discussion. The problem is very, very acute. A lot of MSMEs have been reporting, in fact, because of the delayed payments, that they are facing a lot of problems. Government itself realized that there is a 5 lakh crore outstanding, while the existing mechanism which has been put in place through whatever Samadhan portal and facilitation council is not adequate. And people are still struggling. In fact, like Mr. Iyer also mentioned, still struggling to recover their payment. And Facilitation Council, of course, is not a very effective platform, because as he mentioned that there is a lot of rounds that one has to make, and the procedure is also complicated. So we have requested the government time and again that there should be some effective mechanism through the Facilitation Council. Either the judicial power should be given to the Facilitation Councils, so that their orders are not challenged and they are obeyed, like the court orders, decrees. But the like this change has yet to come, and they may become special courts, as somebody mentioned here also. So until that happens, we will have to do this. We will have to live with this, with the existing mechanism, and follow it up. You have to identify your buyers also. It is not that the government responsibility that you give it to a wrong buyer and then chase the government that you get the money done from this wrong buyer. So that buyer-seller relationship also has to be healthy, and the seller has to understand what kind of buyer he is dealing with, whether he is sound enough financially to make payment. So, but even then, the mechanism that is available can be used, and whatever recommendations are being received, we are surely taking it up with the government for resolution. So with that, we come to the close. I would like to thank both the panelists, Dr. Om Prakash as well as Mr. Arun Agarwal. Both have given a very, very exhaustive information and knowledge to all the participants. We have had some good questions also from the participants. I can understand the subject is such where the participants, of course, would be really angry that they are not getting their money, despite of all the mechanism that the government talks of. In fact, we are also in the same boat, and we are also trying to understand and resolve the problems, to take it to the government. That is what our effort is. So let us hope that something better comes out, some improvements happen. And with that, we end this note and give it to the, our colleagues, Zumair and Sudhamini. Zumair, thank you, and Sudhamini, thank you very much. Both of you have been doing a great job in putting these, programs together, so that we come to know more and more about the MSME sector and the issues which require to be addressed. So over to you, Zumair.
Thank you so much, sir. And a big thank you again to both of our panelists. I would like to direct our audience again to the link given in the chat box. Kindly direct your further questions over there so we can take notice of them and we can include them in our future webinars. Thank you very much and good evening.
Thank you.